So I'll call the December Park Board meeting, Hudson Park Board meeting to order. First item on our agenda is the minutes from our last meeting. It was in the packet. Are there any changes or corrections or omissions that anybody saw? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
I'll second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Carried. The first item we have on our agenda is in reference to the pickleball court that we had been working with the Pickleball Association to find a home for them or do things. And we had $40,000 allocated to do that. Mike, you want to take over and run through what you've got?
Yeah, so as Pat stated, the city did bond for the development of courts that we were going to partner with the pickleball with. We had set aside $40,000 for that improvement. In the issue sheet, you probably read, they have since found a alternate home with down at the Y camp on the south end of town, where they partnered with the Y and they were able to use some of their funds and some of the Y's funds and kind of repurpose some facilities down there on a much faster timeline. They didn't want to wait. So this begs to question what the park board would like to do with those monies that were designated for pickleball courts. Like Pat said, there's $40,000 allocated. Does the park board wish to continue pursuing pickleball improvements, or would you like to reallocate that money to something else? And then keep in mind the next agenda item, we did receive some grant funds from the league totaling $10,000. So in theory, the park board does have, $50,000 at the disposal if they want to reallocate those pickleball monies to a different project. Now, I did look at the capital improvement plan for next year. Well, in your issue sheet, it does list the amenities, the other amenities that we are pursuing next year, which are, the Prospect Point Trail, asphalting that, pouring a small concrete pad for people to have weddings out on Prospect Point, and then some miscellaneous park items. But if you look further beyond that, in 2023, in the CIP, it's a splash pad and mooring stairs access for the sailboats. So just to give you an idea, and those are some larger numbers. So obviously the $50,000 total wouldn't be for a big project, but we could really knock off something really nice in the city. So.
Well, at this point, are you looking more for us to have a motion to move it to just a general fund and then give us some time to think about it before saying what we want?
No, so if the park board wants to have some time to think about it, I wouldn't make any motion. I would just bring it back to a future agenda and have a motion and approval at that time when the park board's ready to reallocate those funds. Because what would happen then is when we pursue that project, I would have to go in front of Common Council and Finance Committee and request the reallocation of those monies to a different park amenity project. So nothing, if the park board doesn't want to do anything tonight, that's fine. You can sit on it. I just didn't know if you had something in mind. I just want to make you alert that there is an option there. If you don't want to pursue pickleball courts, we can reallocate those monies to something different.
Has this new association with the Y, has that satisfied most of the people that we've been talking with over the last couple of years?
Yeah, it's the Hudson Pickleball Association that kind of sought after them for some possibilities, and they were able to come to an agreement and partnership. So I would say 80 to 90% of the people that play pickleball courts, play pickleball out at Anderson Park would then move down to the Y camp to their new facility.
Mike, a couple of questions.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead. You can go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No, I was just to say the one thing that I want to bring to your attention is for Anderson Park, we were going to resurface and restripe that facility, both the tennis court and the basketball court this summer. I ended up pushing it back just because pickleball wanted a place to play this summer while their courts were being constructed down at the Y camp. And so next year, I already reached out to the company that bid. He's going to honor the same price. He's going to come back next year and resurface and restripe it. So we will have 4 pickleball courts still at Anderson Park.
Oh,
Okay.
good. Well, it's Christians being thrown to the lions. I mean, we can use the money in all kinds of places.
Yeah.
Mike, what I was going to ask is how much does that cost for the resurfacing at Anderson, like the basketball and the tennis courts and whatnot?
I believe it was like 18,000 or 20,000, Paul.
Okay. Then I was going to ask for the splash pad because I can't remember what the estimate was for that whole piece.
That's you
That's
can go
bigger.
you can go as cheap as you want. You can go as extravagant as you want. You know, you can put them in for 100,000. You can go all the way up to $1 million. It just depends on what the appetite is and how much funds we have available. And I know at the council level, there has been some discussions already as far as using some of the ARPA monies to help construct that facility.
Okay.
So maybe we wouldn't have to bond for the full 300,000, kind of what we had estimated putting into that. Maybe we can go a third of that and then use 200, use the ARPA money to offset any of the expenses.
Okay. Then my third question was just, we had talked on and off, I think, about like a stairway, to Prospect up from, I think it's from 3rd Street. But I forget what those, do you remember like the ballpark figures? You looked into it, I think, a year or 2 ago or something.
Yep. So I did the part of the property that I looked at putting stairs at was kind of further up the hill towards the lift station.
Mhm.
And it was going to cost approximately $15,000 to put those stairs in. Now I know, Pat, you could probably talk to this. A while back, Tom Zulli, my predecessor, had gotten some quotes on doing stairs at where the old ones were ripped out, and it was an extortionate amount. And like both Pat and I have discussed, we could probably do it for a fraction of that, doing some alternative construction methods that still meet building codes. So Pat, I don't know if you want to weigh in on that.
Sure. We had looked at there's steel prefabricated in various lengths, fire escape stairs that you see all over buildings, all over in large metropolitan areas. And it was about $7,500, if I remember correctly, for replacing that metal stairs. And then whatever it would be to have the top part of it poured for the anchor there, and the same with it down below. It doesn't have to be a really exotic stairway if we can use a prefabricated one. Have the big engineering fees and everything else to go with it.
So I don't know exactly what other folks feel. I think it makes sense to reallocate just based on, it seems like the pickleball folks are getting their needs met with the partnership with the Y. So I think the reallocation makes sense. I guess based on the numbers, I think in my mind, I think the 40,000 would be best if we, directed it toward a couple of small projects. So whether that's the stairs or whether that's the, resurfacing or something, it's kind of a good problem to have, I think, because it's kind of additional money. So I'm not sure what other folks their priorities are, but I'm thinking like the resurfacing would be good. I'm thinking those stairs. I know, Pat, were you interested in stairways to the moorings or whatnot?
We're talking about that before the meeting started, and that's scheduled now for 23 to come up. I think when we sit down and take a serious look at all of the park issues and look at what we may have for repair on equipment or repair on bathrooms or things like that we have to take care of or have kind of put off, I think we can really use it up well. So
Yeah, I agree too that we should reallocate.
So how then on a formal motion tonight to reallocate those dollars to something else, period?
Well, I guess when you reallocate it, it has to go towards a specific project. So whether that's the 3rd Street steps, whether that's a restroom upgrade, I'm going to need a more precise motion than just I motion to reallocate these funds to a different park project. That's not going to fly.
We'll
So
do
with
it
that
later.
being said, I mean, I can put together a list of projects that the park board has discussed since I've been here and just kind of bring it back to next month's meeting or the next time we meet, and we can walk through, and I can put down a dozen projects, and the park board can select from that list. Or if you have any projects that you want to see done, you can always email them to me or Pat, and we can include that on the spreadsheet as far as what we would like to see in the future. I don't know. It's up to you, however you want to pursue that.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. On your summary here, you've got, for 2022, you have miscellaneous park items, 10,000. I don't know if that's 10,000 because that's all you kind of felt you had to work with, or that's kind of the where that 10 came from. So yeah, so you doing a list might help. Maybe that 10,000 can be, if it's instead of 10 picnic tables, it's 15 or whatever that was earmarked for. We could look at that.
Okay. Yeah, the 10,000 is typically put in each CIP cycle each year to purchase things like you said, Mike, whether that's picnic tables, whether that's garbage cans, whether that's grills, things of that nature where we don't typically put it in the operating budget.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, do we have enough on that? Move along to the next item?
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll just put together a list of 10 to 12 amenities that park board has discussed, and I'll bring it forward to next meeting, and we can have further discussion and maybe pinpoint a project or two that we want to reallocate those funds to. Sounds good.
Thanks, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Next item on our agenda, we've got Mark Garrity from here to present the proposal that he was showing us last month. Mark, you want to step in?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Park Board. I was here last month, and at the instructions of, as I understood it, the city administrator, I was only to provide information to you, and that no action was to be taken on the materials that were presented at that time. And so I thank you for allowing me to address you again. You've been provided with the packet, which is very well done by Mr. Morose and I believe Ms. Andrews. And it's lays out for you the proposal that we talked about last month. And that proposal specifically is involving a project, as I've entitled it, which is the Union Pacific Trestle Bridge in North Hudson, and the surrounding properties, which are owned by the Village of North Hudson, the County of St. Croix, and the City of Hudson jointly. And I am here as a representative of the St. Croix Bike and Pedestrian Trails Coalition. And you have been provided the materials, which include the maps, and that map is extremely important for you to understand the ownership of the properties. And as one city official said to me, we wouldn't own property like this. Well, you wouldn't, but you do. And that's very important to understand. You own it. And so what we're talking about here, and in your summary, it notes that we are a grassroots organization made up of citizens of St. Croix County, that to create a coordinated bike and pedestrian trail network in St. Croix County. And the coalition's mission is to support the development of multi-use bike and pedestrian trail systems and road accommodations throughout St. Croix County. And we have been working on this project for 35 months. 35 months. And that came forward where we worked through the county, we worked through the village, we attempted to work with the city, And we have, over a year ago, came up with a proposal to work with an organization of the National Park Service called the Rivers Trails Conservancy Assistance Program, the RTCA, which I'll talk about in just a second. We have identified this important trail connection between North Hudson and Hudson, and it also would be the keystone to connect the St. Croix crossing bridge at Stillwater and the crossing at Hudson, which would make a real loop trail. And so what we're looking at, this is a unique experience for both bicyclists and pedestrians. And those of you that may recall a few years ago, for 2 years running, the Pelicans came to town approximately April 1st, and they stayed most of the month. And what better place to watch the Pelicans but the Trestle Bridge, and over my shoulder, you see the Trestle Bridge, which connects, it dates back to 1873. This is an opportunity, in using the phrase, which we would create a bridge to the past and the future and recognize the confluence of many cultures. And I talk about that because the confluence of the cultures, and the picture behind me, the bluff, which is the east side of the basin here of Malilu, was, to my belief, based on my research, the high ground and the settlement for the Native Americans, because this was the confluence of the Willow River and the St. Croix. The structures that are there now weren't there when the Native Americans were controlling the area. That the bridge street behind me, it's my understanding, was put in about 1873 to 1900, and it created an access to get out to Mr. Burkhart's grist mill and also the mill that ran the lumberyard. This is an opportunity that is outlined very concisely, and I thank Susan Heiser for her great work on this resolution. But the resolution before you is not to buy the land. You're not purchasing something. And as I went through and getting ready for this today, I feel sad because this project isn't in your plan that's coming up next for a vote. This isn't in the bike plan, the recreational plan. Because, and again, I will say, we have been pushed off at various levels and haven't been able to get here. But that's, as I read your document, that's a living document. So if something new comes up, that you're able to address it within the future, is whatever that be, through this document being 2025. This resolution, though, puts into work the county's motto that they have, which is innovation through cooperation. That's really important to keep in mind. That's what's on all the county's website. That's on their letterhead. It's on the wall behind the county board. Innovation through cooperation. And so what this does, in the Rivers Trails Conservation Assistance Program, comes and helps the entities, be it primarily the governmental entities, but government and private entities, to work together on a plan. And that's what this resolution is saying, is to have the county, the city, and the village to sit down and to cooperate on a project and to talk to each other about this project. So the resolution, and the first step is to engage, after this is done, to engage the RTCA to come and do this. And if the application is accepted, and it must be filed by March 1st, that's why time is of the essence. And it's a situation, as I said, 35 months of doing this and butting against, essentially, it's been extremely frustrating. But this is a project that has, you've talked about pickleball, you've talked about Anderson Park. Go back and look at when Prospect Park was created, when Burkmose Park was created, and Lakefront Park was created. I have sitting in the other room framed copies of 3 documents. I have the 3 forms, and I think Mr. Casanova may have the 4th one, of the currency that was printed up by this city to finance Lakefront Park, because that was essentially, it was a dump. It was where the the people unloaded and the livestock, etc., and was then created into the park that we knew it as kids, where there was a baseball field where the parking lot is now for the boats. But it was the vision of the people from the past to be able to benefit the people of the future. And it's the old line, you plant a tree under which you will never enjoy its shade. And that's what this investment is about. So I'm asking you, and it's simply asking you to refer this to the county, the city council, and then it's a matter of going on. I was very disappointed when I received the letter telling me last month that I could only talk about the information. When it said, we got to wait and see what the county does. Well, again, 35 months I've been waiting to see what different entities will do. We appeared in front of the county on, I believe it was the 14th or 16th of September, and they said, please go to the city and the village before we make a decision about taking a run at this. This is the Community Development Committee, and see what their interest is in cooperating. And I want to show this county what we can do as to Hudson and North Hudson, to be able to cooperate with them, to sit down at the table and to come up with a plan. And if the plan comes out to be, we don't want to do this, that's okay. But sit down and talk. And that's what this resolution is about. And I would ask you to support it, please.
I'd like to just add one thing to what Mark has said. In so doing, we're working with people who know what the rules and the regulations are for the Wild and Scenic River Act. They're from the parks, know what can be done and what can't regarding the DNR, so that during the planning process, we aren't led astray by our ideas being something that can't actually be done. And to get that for free is a substantial. I think the city paid over $60,000 to have the engineering firm do the lakefront for us. I mean, we already own the land. I'll shut up. I'm biased. I'm sorry.
So, Mark, you mentioned that St. Croix County said, talk to North Hudson and Hudson, and let's see what their feedback is. Have you talked to North Hudson? And I'm just curious why St. Croix would not perform on an agreement like that, waiting for our answer.
So, Mr. Kennedy, when we appeared before them, and again, it's been a matter of, through the coalition, meeting with and setting up meetings with the various entities involved. St. Croix County, the Community Development Committee or the St. Croix County Community Development Office has been extremely helpful. And there are people on the board that are very interested in this. When we went to them, that was specifically for the purpose of making an offer, because we were trying to get the railroad told me, the representative, a gentleman by the name of Colby Rinker, told me back in June of this year, make an offer, because we were talking about doing a dive study and getting on the property. And it was either post an exorbitant bond to do that or make an offer. And so we went ahead, went to the county, got on the hearing and made that presentation. And after much discussion, and when they found out the answer to the question, who's going to own it, and then the subsequent questions would be who's going to maintain it, et cetera. When I pointed out to them in that embankment, if I point right above there, that hillside there has 6 city lots in the city of Hudson that are owned by the county, the village, and the city in joint. I don't know what it is, whether it's joint tenancy or tenants in common. I'm assuming it's tenants in common, and that's important. So they had a hearing, and at the end of that, they said, would you please go to these entities and then come back to us to let us know what's going to happen. So it's my understanding, and that's why we've gone this way. We've taken off the table, let's make an offer to sit down, and if they'll come up with a plan. And that's where we're at. That's the exact answer of why we're here.
So I have a quick question for Mike, I think. The resolution is before us in the packet. Has that been run by like Nick Vivian? Do we know anything about that?
No, it has not yet. If the park board approves a recommendation to bring this forward to council for their review, it would be reviewed by Mr. Vivian before it was brought to council. That's kind of the process that I had discussed with Aaron.
Okay. I mean, I think, and I want to say I went and took a tour, if you will, of the site with Mark this weekend. And I appreciate the 3 years. It sounds like more than 3 years of work you put into that. So I think it's an exciting idea. I think it'd be a great asset to the city and also just the community if we could do some kind of a regional park and put a bike path through there. I have some questions still. I know there are a lot of unanswered still about the railroad and their cooperation. I think there's a lot of unanswered questions about the other two municipal, North Hudson, the village, I should say, and then the county and the whole DNR piece or whatnot. I think I would like to see this go forward to the council. I think it's a first step to just say, the way I see it is it's a first step to saying, let's start talking together. Let's start talking to the county seriously. Let's start talking to North Hudson seriously. Let's
Find out what we can do there.
What's it?
Let's find out what's possible to do there.
Yeah, right. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I would support the idea, and I'm not sure, Mike, if it's this resolution that's before us with its wording, or if we just do a general resolution that just says we would like to kick it up to the council to have Nick work on some language to invite the other two governmental parties in. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure how that works best.
If I could
Paul,
just
I would
add,
Go
if I
ahead.
could just add one piece of information about the help that we could get from the RTCA, which is a piece that hasn't been a part of this discussion ever until now. They are going to require some kind of statement from all the people that we expect to bring to the table to talk with them, that those folks are willing to sit down and talk in good faith about getting to an agreement. It doesn't really have to be this one. I don't even know if it has to be a consistent one out of each governmental organization, but there does have to be a statement from all of you who are going to meet with them and work with them that you're going to try to find a solution. And as Mark says, even if we're not going to do anything right now, we're still going to need some kind of a statement from each organization. Excuse me, Mark.
All we're asking for is the referral to the council. As I understood chain of command here, we came here first, it then gets referred to council, and that would be, so the other thing for Mr. Vivian to look at is he would look at the resolution and how binding it is and where it goes. And if there's to be an amendment made, that's fine. The other thing is, I believe by doing this, Mr. Vivian would also then be looking at least I would hope he looks at, and Mr. Rose and I have talked about this, is the application of the 1988 Rails to Trails federal law dealing with once a railroad right-of-way is abandoned, then once they declare it abandoned, and they've declared it to us in various ways, once that happens, the federal government that grants the right-of-way is then open if there's an organization that's coming forward that you can acquire the property. As I read the legislation, you can acquire the property essentially without cost. And so the cost would come in getting the right-of-way to go under the railroad bridge, which would bring us to the south. But that's a whole separate deal. All we're talking about here is to get the project to the council, let the council try to work through this in the language there. So,
And the other thing, besides the March 1st deadline that was pointed out, we also have the federal government coming up with resources for infrastructure. And a joint project like this between all levels of government for the benefit of everybody falls right into that bucket if we are ready to go. Paul, do you want to make a motion?
I'm just writing something down here. I'll read it for a second. Sorry.
Sure. But I think this is an amazing, and all meet there and walk it and with Mark and look at the asset that we have in that part of the lakefront.
So I'd like to put this motion on the table, and if it's bad, you guys can vote it down or amend it or do whatever you like to do with it. I'm just trying to make it as simple as possible. And then I want Nick to come up with like the more formal language. So I would motion that the city of Hudson enter into a good faith negotiations toward creating a regional park along with the village of North Hudson and St. Croix County in the Lake Malibu Basin area.
I just, isn't the issue before us whether the park board wants to bring this to the council? Not.
Yes, I
Isn't
think
that,
I think you're more correct.
Okay, so scratch that first part. The park board. Thank you for that insight. I'm just thinking it's going to go up to council. So look, I guess I'm withdrawing that last motion, even though it doesn't have a second. Doesn't matter. I would like to motion the park board to recommend that the city of Hudson would enter into good faith negotiations toward creating a regional park along with the village of North Hudson and St. Croix County in the Lake Malibu Basin area. Is that an accurate description, Mark, of the geographic area?
Yes.
Okay. I think I'll go with that then.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Anybody have any questions before we bring it to a vote?
Can you read that back again, Paul?
Yeah, sorry. It's hard without Deb too. I'm going to make a motion that the park board recommend.
Yep. I just want
To
just want to be clear that, you know, the intent of what Mr. Garrity brought forward tonight to park board is kind of it all revolves around the resolution. So what I was envisioning is the park board would make a motion to forward the presented resolution onto common council for review.
There you
Plain
go.
and simple. That's kind of keep it simple, right?
okay.
The motion that you're making, Paul,
Okay.
that's almost like a motion at the council level. So the park board is just making a motion that, you know,
Okay.
to recommend the resolution presented in front of us be forwarded on to common council for review. That's Mr. Garrity, does that kind of hit the nail on the head?
It does. The other one's starting to make me cry because I'm getting so excited here. So let's get the resolution on, and then we can.
Okay. So for proper procedure, I'm going to withdraw the current motion on the floor.
Mhm.
And the new motion would be to forward the resolution in the packet onto the Hudson Common Council for consideration.
Perfect.
I'll second that.
Good motion. Now, is there any question? If not, the chair will call the question. All those in favor signify by aye.
I
Against? Motion carried. There you go, Mr. Garrity. Step
Thank you.
one.
Thank you so much. I am going to advise you, I am at 7:00 appearing in front of the village board for public comment. I have made 7 copies of the your packet that's for here because we've been getting somewhat of a runaround. So I'm presenting it tonight for their information only. And so just letting you know that that's going up there. I'm not trying to plagiarize anything, but presenting it's really well done. So I can't thank you enough, and I'll wait to see when we get on to the agenda for the, probably be after the first year, I'm assuming. So
Yes.
But
Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank
It's
you.
a big first step.
It is. Thank you all.
Thanks, Mark.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
You
Christmas.
too.
Christmas to you.
I can't look at the agenda on my laptop because it died. I'm on, oh, it scares
I'll
me.
take,
but-
I'll take it, Pat.
$1,000.
So the next item on the agenda is to discussion and possible action on resolution 24-21 to approve the 2021-2025 outdoor recreation plan and forward a recommendation of approval to Common Council. So after our last park board meeting, I discussed this with Mr. Johnson, the community development director. And because this plan is referenced in both the city ordinances and the comprehensive plan, he recommended that the park board approve a resolution to be forwarded on to council adopting the 2021-2025 outdoor recreation plan. So I did make the changes that were discussed at the previous meeting, and just looking for formality for the park board to approve the resolution 24-21.
I would move to approve the resolution.
I'll second.
It's been moved, and seconded. Any further discussion about it? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against? Motion carried.
Okay. And then the last thing on the agenda is just project updates. I didn't list anything out, but I'll run through a couple here. So the city of Hudson was donated a liner for the new hockey rink that we constructed here this last year. And the company that helped construct that facility reached out to me and asked if I would purchase a liner, and the budget wouldn't allow it. So then Mr. Kerrigan donated a liner to the city. So himself and the staff actually installed the liner this morning, and we have flooded the rink. We have 4 inches of water sitting in the tub right now, waiting for Mother Nature to freeze it over. So the weather cooperates, we might have ice here in the next week or two, which is awesome because it's before Christmas break.
Great.
Yep. So
Mike,
what
what location is that, Mike? Sorry.
that's the one at Burton Park.
At Burton. Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. And then outside of that, all of our seasonal help, they have less for the season, and just now it's kind of into winter mode, out plowing the trails, so on and so forth, and keeping the trails open down at Lakefront Park for all the lights and all the traffic down there that's been in the park here the last couple of weeks. So the biggest thing though is the hockey rink update.
That'll make a huge difference. It'll make it into the spring too. As the sun gets higher, it doesn't have that dark background to absorb the heat.
Mm-hmm.
That would be nice.
That's
Yeah.
really awesome. Yeah. I'm wondering is there a card or something we could send from the park board for the donation or something like that? I don't know how to do that, but
Yeah. Public knowledge
We
for
have-
that.
We have cards here at City Hall, Paul, that I can mail on behalf of the park board.
that would be awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you, Mike.
Yep.
Any items for future agendas? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carried. Have a good one, people. Stay safe.
You too, you guys.
Happy
Have a good
holidays,
week.
everyone.
Happy holidays. Bye-bye.